Nothing matters except you and me, Christine. Now you'll sing all you want, but only for me. You will, won't you, my darling?
Of course.
Since the 1920s, Universal has been home to some of the most iconic creatures and phantoms in cinema history. From eerie, unforgettable designs to chilling performances by legendary actors such as Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Claude Rains, and Lon Chaney and his son, these monsters have become enduring symbols of horror. Join us as we delve into the creepy world of Universal's most memorable film monsters.
It wasn't the right time for us to meet. But there'll be other nights, other stars for us to watch. They'll be back.
Number 10. Eric, the Phantom of the Opera, 1925. The first of the Universal monsters, Eric is brought to life in Gaston Leroux's classic novel, expertly adapted into a film starring Lon Chaney. This version captures the Phantom's sinister essence, with groundbreaking makeup that shocked audiences. Women fainted in cinemas. Even without a voice, Chaney's performance is extraordinary, using only his facial expressions to convey Eric's tragic story. The makeup alone is one of the greatest in Universal Monsters history, adding a haunting depth to the story. The film tells the story of Eric, a disfigured genius who hides in the catacombs beneath the Paris Opera House, wearing the mask of the Phantom. Eric falls in love with the beautiful Christine Daae, but their love is threatened by Raoul de Chaney. Eric kidnaps Christine and hides her in his underground lair, pursued by Raoul and a secret detective. His reign of terror includes sabotaging the chandelier at the opera, killing Raoul's brother, and setting deadly traps for Raoul and the detective. There are two endings: the original, in which Eric is caught and thrown into the Seine, and a more heartbreaking version, in which Christine's final gesture of pity causes Eric to die of a broken heart. Number 9. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, 1954. This incredible cinematic masterpiece, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, is a true freak of nature and one of Universal's finest creations. Its makeup is so realistic that it still outshines today's digital special effects. This is the real thing. The story begins with an expedition to the Amazon that uncovers fossil evidence of a link between land and sea animals in the form of a skeletal hand with webbed fingers. Expedition leader Dr. Carl Maya takes his findings to his friend, marine biologist Dr. David Reed, who persuades the Institute's funder, Dr. Mark Williams, to fund a second expedition to the Amazon to find more fossils. On board the tramp steamer Rita, the crew includes Reed, Maya, Mark, Reed's girlfriend Kay Lawrence, and another scientist, Dr. Edwin Thompson. They arrive at the research camp to find Maya's entire team mysteriously killed. The creature, the Gill Man, begins to stalk the crew, especially Kay, turning the story into a Beauty and the Beast chase. The Gill Man kills 2 of Lucas's crew before being captured and locked in a cage aboard the Rita. It escapes during the night and attacks Edwin. Kay bravely fights it off with a lantern. Reed decides they should return to civilization, but their exit is blocked by fallen logs, a trap set by the Gill Man. He kidnaps Kay and leads David, Lucas, and Carl on a dangerous chase to rescue her. Eventually, Kay is rescued, but the creature is riddled with bullets before retreating to its lagoon home, presumed dead. Number 8. Frankensteins Monster, Frankenstein, 1931. Frankensteins Monster is one of the most original and iconic monsters on this list, brought to life by Boris Karloff's mesmerizing performance, his appearance, his speech, and that unforgettable stare. This film cemented the flat-headed, lumbering image of Frankenstein's monster, a look that would become synonymous with horror. The story follows young scientist Henry Frankenstein, Colin Clive, and his devoted assistant, Fritz, Dwight Fry, as they assemble a human body from various parts. Fritz uses the brain of a criminal instead of a normal one, which leads to the monster's uncontrollable rage after being brought to life by a bolt of lightning. Henry's intense obsession with his creation leads to the creature terrorizing the townspeople, culminating in a tragic climax where it is hunted down and burned in a windmill, its only weakness being fire. Frankenstein's legacy continued with a series of sequels, including The Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, and House of Dracula. In later films, Lon Chaney Jr. took over Boris Karloff's role as the monster. Number 7. Count Dracula of Transylvania, Dracula, 1931. Bram Stoker's classic novel is masterfully retold in this iconic Universal monster film, starring Bela Lugosi as the charming yet deadly Count Dracula. His ability to transform into a bat and a wolf makes him a timeless figure in horror cinema. Universal expanded the Dracula franchise with 4 sequels: Dracula's Daughter, Son of Dracula, House of Dracula, and appearances in House of Frankenstein. The story begins with Solicitor Renfield, Dwight Fry, traveling to Dracula's castle in Transylvania. Despite warnings from the villagers, Renfield continues, only to find himself trapped as Dracula's, Bela Lugosi, mind-controlled slave. Dracula then travels to London, where he preys on the unsuspecting populace, while Van Helsing, Edward Van Sloan, relentlessly pursues him. In a final confrontation at Dracula's castle, Van Helsing and Harker, David Manners, track Dracula down. When Dracula discovers that Renfield has betrayed him, he strangles him in a fit of rage. As the sun rises, Dracula becomes vulnerable in his coffin, and Van Helsing impales him with a wooden stake, breaking Dracula's hypnotic hold over Mina, Helen Chandler. Harker and Mina leaving Van Helsing alone to face the morning sun, ending Dracula's reign of terror. Number 6. Larry Talbot, The Wolfman, 1941. In my opinion, The Wolfman is the greatest American werewolf movie. The makeup is eerily wolf-like, but retains a human touch that adds to its unique horror appeal. Having Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman only adds to the impact. The story tugs at your heartstrings because it portrays Larry Talbot not as a villain, but as a tragic figure. A man cursed to turn into a monstrous wolf and commit senseless acts of violence against his will. Although the Wolfman would appear in other films, such as Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, and House of Dracula, he would never again star alone. After learning of his brother's death, Larry Talbot, Lon Chaney Jr., returns to his ancestral home in Llanwelly, Wales, hoping to reconnect with his estranged father, Sir John Talbot, Claude Rains. While there, he becomes enchanted with Gwen Conliffe, Evelyn Anchors, a local antique shop owner. Larry tries to bond with Gwen by buying her a silver-headed walking stick with a wolf on it. One fateful night, while trying to save Gwen's friend Jenny from what he thinks is a wolf attack, Larry is bitten during the struggle. The bite condemns him to turn into a wolf-like creature every full moon. His cursed existence forces him to come to terms with his new monstrous side, and tragically, he is unable to resist his violent urges. The film reaches its harrowing conclusion when Sir John, trying to save his son from his fate, kills Larry with his own silver-headed walking stick. Number 5. Griffin The Invisible Man, 1933. The Invisible Man is a film that is simply fantastic. It combines action, explosions, and the terrifying concept of invisibility. Made in the 1930s, it's amazing how the special effects of the time could bring to life the idea of a man who could turn invisible. And let's not forget the mesmerizing performance of Claude Rains. The sheer intensity of his voice is enough to send shivers down your spine. The film opens in a blizzard and introduces us to a mysterious man, wrapped in bandages and dark glasses, who takes a room in an inn in the English village of Iping and insists on being left alone. Griffin, Claude Rains, is a mad scientist who has created a serum that makes him invisible. Tension escalates when the people of Iping discover his secret, forcing him to go on a rampage against anyone who gets in his way. This descent into madness, fueled by his invisibility, leads Griffin to commit horrific acts. In the end, he's hunted down like Frankenstein's monster and shot in the snow, only for his corpse to become visible again. Not only did The Invisible Man set the stage for a series of sequels, The Invisible Man Returns, The Invisible Woman, The Invisible Agent, and The Invisible Man's Revenge, but it also cemented its place as a classic in the horror genre. Number 4. Imhotep The Mummy, 1932. The Mummy is a cult classic and one of the most iconic Universal monsters. Although the story has been told in various forms, the original tale of the evil Egyptian priest Imhotep, Boris Karloff, remains unsurpassed. The franchise includes semi-sequels such as The Mummy's Hand, The Mummy's Tomb, The Mummy's Ghost, and The Mummy's Curse, which focus on the mysterious Karis rather than Imhotep. The film follows Imhotep, who is resurrected when an archaeological expedition led by Sir Joseph Whemple, Arthur Byron, finds his mummy. Despite warnings from his friend Dr. Mueller, Edward Van Sloan, Sir Joseph's assistant recites an ancient life-giving spell, bringing Imhotep back to life. Imhotep escapes, steals the scroll of Thoth, and searches Cairo for the reincarnation of his ancient lover, Princess Ankhes-en-Amon. 10 years later, he reappears as Ardath Bey and reveals the location of Ankhes-en-Amon's tomb to Sir Joseph's son. After a long search, they discover her tomb and its treasures in the Cairo National Museum. Imhotep, who was once mummified alive for attempting to resurrect her, finds Helen Grosvenor, Zita Johann, a woman who bears a striking resemblance to the princess. Desperate to make Helen his bride, Imhotep plots to kill her and use the ancient scroll to bring her back to life. In the film's climax, Helen prays to the goddess Isis, who burns the scroll that sustains Imhotep, leaving him a skeleton. A landmark in horror cinema, The Mummy combines eerie atmosphere with a timeless tale of doomed love and terror. Number 3. Frankensteins Bride, The Bride of Frankenstein, 1935. The Bride of Frankenstein is a timeless classic and an essential part of Universal's legendary monster lineup. The character embodies both beauty and terror, making her a staple of horror cinema. The story picks up where the original Frankenstein left off. The monster, Boris Karloff, has survived the fiery destruction of the windmill and is incredibly lonely. Not evil, just desperately misunderstood and longing for companionship. Henry Frankenstein, the doctor who created the monster, also survives and is reunited with his old professor, Dr. Septimus Pretorius. Together they conspire to create a bride for Frankenstein's monster. A raging storm intensifies as preparations are made to bring the bride, Elsa Lanchester, to life. Her bandaged form is lifted through the laboratory roof, and lightning strikes a kite, bringing her to life. Henry and Pretorius watch as she awakens, exclaiming, "She's alive! Alive!" The monster, who has been eagerly awaiting his bride, reaches out to her and asks, "Friend?" The bride cries out in horror and rejects him. "She hates me, like all the others," cries the monster. Furious, he rampages through the laboratory, destroying everything in his path. Finally, he tells Henry and Elizabeth, "Yes, go, you live." To Pretorius and the bride, he says, "You stay, we belong dead." As Henry and Elizabeth flee, the monster sheds a tear and pulls a lever, causing the castle and laboratory to collapse. The Bride of Frankenstein remains an iconic symbol of the tragic outsider and the monstrous aspects of creation, with a haunting and powerful ending that cements its place in horror cinema. Number 2. Disfigured Claudine, The Phantom of the Opera, 1943. The Phantom of the Opera, 1943, is a haunting blend of music, color, and tragedy. Universal's adaptation of the classic tale brings a darker, more human element to the Phantom's story. A tale of love gone wrong rather than pure evil. The film introduces us to Eric Claudin, Claude Rains, a lonely and disheveled violinist who has played at the Paris Opera for 20 years. Claudin is a man consumed by his passion for music and the voice of Christine Dubois, Susanna Foster, whom he has supported financially to fulfill her dream of becoming the world's greatest singer. When financial problems force Claudin out of his small apartment and his money runs out, he is eventually fired and left with nothing. Desperate, Claudin is forced to sell his life's work, a beautiful concerto, to a music publisher. Unfortunately, the old and bitter publisher refuses to recognize Claudin's talent. Frustrated and feeling betrayed, Claudin searches for his concerto in the publisher's office, only to find it being played by someone else. In a moment of rage, Claudin strangles the publisher. In the ensuing struggle, the publisher's wife throws acid in his face, leaving him horribly disfigured. Claudin flees into the sewers of Paris, transformed into the Phantom, a figure of both tragic madness and obsessive love, who stalks and kills anyone who threatens Christine's burgeoning career. The film presents a deeply sympathetic portrayal of the Phantom, whose monstrous actions are driven by a longing for acceptance and love, creating a powerful and tragic narrative. Number 1. One-Eyed Creature. It Came from Outer Space, 1953. It Came from Outer Space is a classic sci-fi 3D film that offers a fresh take on the alien invasion genre. The creature that attacks Earth is a truly terrifying one-eyed creature, a monstrous yet strangely sympathetic presence that still has the power to terrify. The film follows amateur astronomer John Putnam, Richard Carlson, and his girlfriend Ellen Fields, Barbara Rush, as they witness a meteorite crash near Sand Rock, Arizona. Putnam is quick to conclude that it's a spacecraft from outer space that has landed on Earth, while Fields remains skeptical. As a series of mysterious disappearances occur and the townspeople begin to behave strangely, Putnam's suspicions about the aliens are confirmed. The aliens turn out to be benign beings whose spaceship has malfunctioned, forcing them to stay on Earth until their ship is repaired. They temporarily take control of some humans because their appearance is so different from ours, not out of malice, but out of necessity. The story presents a fascinating twist on the alien invasion trope, showing how fear can be mutual, with the aliens actually more afraid of us than we are of them. This film is highly underrated and deserves more recognition, especially alongside other Universal sci-fi classics such as The Creature from the Black Lagoon. These iconic creations not only captivated audiences with their terrifying appearances, but also left an indelible mark on the world of horror, thanks to the incredible performances of actors such as Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Claude Rains, and the Chaney dynasty. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content exploring the world of classic horror.